you ever felt like you were being watched? One family on vacation experienced a terrifying encounter with a creepy clown statue that seemed to have a sinister agenda. Find out what happened in this spine-chilling story. It was supposed to be the perfect summer escape. The Peterson family, James, his wife Linda, and their 2 children, Olivia and Ethan, had been planning this vacation for months. After a stressful year filled with long work hours and school responsibilities, the idea of getting away to a peaceful countryside cottage sounded like heaven. Linda found a cozy little rental online. The photos showed a rustic cottage surrounded by woods, nestled near a quiet lake in upstate New York. It was remote, serene, and just what they needed. When they arrived, the family was enchanted. The air smelled of pine, birds chirped in the distance, and the sun bathed the landscape in a warm glow. The cottage itself was older but well kept, with ivy climbing the stone walls and a backyard that led directly into the woods. It was the kind of place you'd expect to see on a postcard. But there was one detail that stood out immediately. Something out of place. A life-sized clown statue stood stiffly at the edge of the backyard, just beside the woods. It wore a faded red and yellow costume, its face frozen in a wide, toothy grin. One eye looked chipped, the other painted far too large. Its hand extended as if it were beckoning someone closer. At first, James laughed it off. Must be part of the charm, he joked. But none of them found it funny. Olivia whispered, "Why would anyone put that in their yard?" Ethan avoided looking at it altogether. Linda tried to make light of it, but she too felt that gnawing discomfort. Still, they didn't want to spoil the first day of vacation. They unpacked, grilled dinner, and played board games until late into the evening. But even as the sun dipped below the trees and nightfall blanketed the property, the clown remained, its silhouette clearly visible through the windows. There's a fine line between creepy and terrifying. This family's peaceful vacation turned into a nightmare when they encountered a clown statue that wasn't as inanimate as they initially thought. This video will leave you questioning what lurks in the shadows. The next morning, James stepped outside to enjoy a cup of coffee. The clown statue was still there, but now it seemed closer. Maybe it was just a trick of the morning light, or maybe he misjudged the distance the day before. He shrugged it off. Later that afternoon, Olivia screamed. Her toy unicorn, which she'd brought from home and left on the porch swing, was gone. She was sure she left it there. The family searched around the yard and porch, but found nothing. When they returned to the house, James noticed something that made his stomach tighten. The clown statue was holding something. He stepped closer. His blood ran cold. It was the unicorn, cradled gently in its outstretched hand. Linda immediately accused James of moving it as a prank, but he swore he hadn't touched it. The kids were visibly shaken. "Let's just put it back where it was," Linda said, trying to keep the peace. But from that moment on, the air around the cottage felt wrong. Over the next few days, things escalated. Ethan's flashlight flickered uncontrollably when he pointed it at the statue. The batteries were new. At night, Olivia would wake up crying, saying she saw the clown looking at her through the window. "Impossible," James said. "It's in the backyard." Except one morning it wasn't. It now stood in the front yard. No one admitted to moving it. They were miles from any other houses. No sign of neighbors or pranksters. The statue's expression seemed subtly different now. Its grin stretched wider as though it knew something they didn't. Things began vanishing inside the house. Keys, utensils, even Linda's wedding ring. Strange whispers could be heard at night, and on 2 separate occasions they found muddy footprints leading from the back door to the children's rooms, but no one else had entered. James began locking every door and window before bed. He placed a chair against the front door as a makeshift barricade. Linda insisted they leave, but James, still skeptical, argued they'd lose their deposit and exaggerate the problem. That night, everything changed. What happens when a seemingly harmless vacation turns into a terrifying encounter with a creepy clown statue? This family discovered the hard way that sometimes the things that go bump in the night are real. Watch and see what happened. After a particularly sleepless night, Linda decided to investigate. She contacted the rental owner. But when she asked about the clown statue, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. "There shouldn't be any statue," the owner finally replied. "I've never had one on the property, and I don't leave decorations outside." Linda's heart dropped. She asked if there had ever been complaints about anything strange before. Again, silence. Then, almost a whisper, "There was a couple who stayed there years ago. They left in the middle of the night. Said their daughter saw something move in the woods. They never came back." Shaken, Linda searched the internet for any clues. That's when she stumbled upon a local blog about urban legends in the area. One entry caught her eye. The Haunting of Jester's Hollow. It told the story of a traveling clown in the 1940s who performed at carnivals across the East Coast. He was notorious for his disturbing act, one that frightened more than entertained. Eventually, he was accused of abducting children and was lynched by a mob near the very woods their cottage now stood beside. Legend said his spirit never left. That sometimes when families with children stayed too close to the forest, he would return in painted skin and silent form, watching, waiting. That night, everything spiraled out of control. Ethan woke up screaming. His room was ice cold even though the heater was on. His closet door was wide open, and at the foot of his bed stood the clown. Not the statue, not a decoration. A towering, breathing thing, grinning wide. James ran in and saw it too, just for a second, before it disappeared into the hallway. But muddy footprints remained, leading from Ethan's bed, out toward the front door. No more hesitation. They grabbed what they could and rushed out. As they drove away, Olivia screamed again. She pointed out the back window. There, at the edge of the woods under the pale moonlight, the clown stood once more, unmoving, watching. They never returned to the cottage. When authorities were sent to investigate, there was no clown statue on the property, no footprints, no signs of break-in. But weeks later, a package arrived at the Petersons' home. No return address. Inside was a faded red and yellow glove. And on the glove, a child's unicorn sticker. Some vacations are unforgettable, but for the Peterson family, the memories are better left buried. So the next time you rent a cottage or walk past an old statue, ask yourself, is it just decoration or something that waits for nightfall? Because some clowns don't need a circus to perform, they just need an audience, and they never stop smiling.